The words came out of my son Gabriel's mouth like a shot to the chest. Dad, can you get up and go to the kitchen? We need space here. I was sitting at the end of the table, with the plate still empty in front of me, waiting for supper to start. Around, the whole family. My son Gabriel, 32 years old, daughter-in-law Renata, the two young grandchildren, my sister Celia and her brother-in-law. The table was beautiful, full of food, lights twinkling on the Christmas tree in the background. Everything seemed perfect, until that moment. I looked at my son without understanding. I thought I heard it wrong. "How is it, son?" He didn't even look into my eyes. He just repeated, colder this time, "Can you go to the kitchen, Dad? We're cramped here and, well, Renata is uncomfortable." I felt silence fall on the table like a stone. My sister Celia opened her eyes wide, shocked. The grandchildren stopped picking at their forks, and Renata, the daughter-in-law, continued eating the farofa as if nothing had happened. In fact, she smiled at the corner of her mouth. "My name is Antonio. I am 58 years old. I am a hard-working black man who spent my entire life breaking rocks under the sun to give my children dignity. I raised Gabriel and his sister Mariana alone after their mother died of cancer when they were still young. I was a bricklayer, servant, app driver, cleaner, delivery man. I did everything, all, just so they don't go hungry, don't abandon their studies, don't become another statistic. And now, on Christmas Eve, my own son was telling me to get away from the table. I had spent the whole day preparing that house for supper. I mowed the yard, cleaned the windows, carried the extra chairs from the basement. My back hurt. I have a herniated disc, a result of years of carrying weight in construction. But I didn't complain. I never complained. Because I wanted that night to be special. I wanted my grandchildren to see their grandfather as a worthy man, present, part of the family. But early on I realized something was wrong. When I went down to have breakfast, Renata was in the living room decorating the tree. I said good morning. She didn't even respond. He just looked at me from the corner of his eye and continued hanging the golden balls. I went to the kitchen, made my coffee, put bread in the toaster. I heard her calling Gabriel in the room, speaking quietly, but I managed to hear a few words. "I can't stand him here anymore, Gabriel. We have to resolve this soon." My heart sank. I pretended I hadn't heard anything and went back to my room with a cup of coffee in my hand. I stayed there, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at the empty walls, trying to understand when things had gone so wrong. Gabriel was always a good boy, smart, scholar. I remember when he passed the entrance exam for engineering. I cried with joy. I spent everything I had to pay for his college education in the first few years, until he got a scholarship. I worked 3 jobs at the same time. I slept 4 hours a night, but it was worth it. Or I thought it was worth it. He graduated, got a good job at a construction company, met Renata, got married. I gave my blessing. I insisted on paying for part of the wedding even though I couldn't afford it. I sold my old car and took out a loan, because I wanted him to be happy, and he went, for a while. But Renata always treated me as if I were an old piece of furniture, something that gets in the way, that is there but shouldn't be. She came from a middle-class family, people who looked at me and saw just an old black man, without education, without refinement. I noticed it in the looks, in the silences, in the hidden jokes. And over time, Gabriel began to change too. Before, he called me every day. He asked if I was okay, if I needed anything. After he got married, the calls became rarer. After the grandchildren were born, they almost disappeared. And when I came to live with them, because the rent on my apartment became too expensive and I was unemployed, I realized that I had become a burden. A burden, a problem to be solved. But I endured everything in silence, because I loved my son, and because I had nowhere to go. Going back to that damn Christmas, in the afternoon when everyone started to arrive for supper, I went down to the living room. I was dressed in my best clothes, navy blue dress pants, white shirt that I had carefully pressed, polished shoes. I had even put on perfume. I wanted to look presentable. Renata saw me and made a disgusted face. "Antonio, you're not going to have dinner now, are you? We're still finishing packing things." No, I replied, smiling awkwardly. "I just came to see if you need help." "No need," she cut, dryly. "You can go back to your room." I went back. I sat on the bed again. I heard the sound of laughter downstairs. I heard my sister Celia arriving, greeting everyone. I heard the grandchildren screaming with joy. I heard the sound of plates being placed on the table, glasses clinking, Christmas music playing on the stereo, and nobody called me. I was esperando, half an hour, 1 hour, until the smell of the food became so strong, so irresistible, that I couldn't take it anymore. I walked down slowly as if asking permission to enter my own house, which technically was still mine, but I no longer felt that way. When I arrived in the dining room, everyone was already seated, Gabriel at the head, Renata next to him, the grandchildren in their seats, Celia and her husband on the sides. There was only one chair left at the end, the furthest away, the least important. "Good evening, everyone," I said, a little embarrassed. Can I sit down?" Gabriel looked at Renata. She sighed, irritated. "Yes," Gabriel said, but without enthusiasm. I sat down. I placed the napkin on my lap. I took the plate. I was about to serve myself when I heard Renata whisper something to Gabriel. He shook his head as if to say no. She insisted, pointing at me with her chin, and then he closed his eyes, took a deep breath and spoke those words that destroyed me. "Dad, can you get up and go to the kitchen? We need space here." And that's when everything fell apart. "Gabriel," my voice came out shaking. "I am your father, son." He sighed, irritated, and finally looked at me. But it wasn't a son's look. It was the look of someone looking at a problem, a burden, a hindrance. "I know who you are, Father, but we agreed that you would stay in the room during supper. Remember? We talked about this yesterday." Lie. Nobody had talked to me at all. I had spent the whole day helping to tidy up the house, cleaning the yard, washing dishes. When I asked what time supper was going to be, Gabriel just said later and left. Nobody called me. I came down when I smelled the food and heard the laughter. "No, son, nobody agreed anything with me," I replied, feeling my throat tighten. "I live here. I am your father. Why can't I sit at the table with my family?" Renata dropped her fork forcefully, making a noise. "Because you embarrass people, Antonio," she said sharply. "We have visitors, we have children, and you stay there with these old clothes, this smell of medicine. It's not possible, you understand? It does not give." I looked at the clothes I was wearing. It was a simple shirt, washed, ironed by myself that morning. Old clothes? Smell of medicine? I took blood pressure medication, like half the men my age, but no one had ever complained about the smell. I felt my face heat up, not out of anger, of shame, of humiliation, in front of everyone, in front of my sister, in front of my grandchildren who looked at me confused, not understanding why Mom was being mean to Grandpa. "Renata, for God's sake." Celia tried to intervene, her voice breaking. "What is that? This is absurd. Aunt, please don't interfere," Gabriel said, raising his hand asking for silence. "This is between me and my father." Celia closed her mouth, but I saw the disappointment in her eyes. She had known Gabriel since she was a baby. I had helped raise him when I didn't even have money to buy diapers. She helped me bury my wife. She saw me cry with despair, with exhaustion, with pain. And now he was seeing the man Gabriel had become, a man who was ashamed of his own father. "Do you really want to do this scene, Dad?" Gabriel continued now with a tone of impatience. "Do you want to ruin your family's Christmas? From your grandchildren?" It cut me deeper than any knife, as if I were to blame, like I'm the problem. I who had given my entire life to him. I who had sacrificed myself in every possible way so that he wouldn't go through what I went through. I slowly got up from the chair. My legs were weak. It wasn't physical weakness. It was the pain of realizing that I had become invisible to my own children. Worse than invisible, I had become a nuisance, an inconvenient presence, a stain on the perfect photo of the middle-class family that Renata wanted to build. "Okay," I whispered. "I go." "Dad, don't be like that," Gabriel said, but without any emotion in his voice. "It's just for today. Tomorrow we'll talk." I didn't respond. I turned my back and started walking towards the stairs. I felt everyone's eyes on me, my grandchildren's eyes, confused and sad, Celia's eyes filled with anger and pain, and Renata's eyes, victorious, satisfied. She had achieved what she wanted, to get me out of there, erase me, turn me into nothing. But before climbing the first step, I stopped, because I remembered the envelope I had hidden inside my coat, hanging on the rack next to the door, the Christmas present I had prepared for my son, the gift that had cost me years of sacrifice, of savings, of silent pain, the gift that I thought would make him happy, that would show how much I loved him. Was it still worth giving him that, after everything he had just done to me? I stayed there for a few seconds, standing still, thinking. My mind was confused. My heart was broken. But deep down, I was still a father, and parents don't give up on their children, even when their children give up on them. I turned back. "Son." Gabriel rolled his eyes impatiently. "Dad, please don't complicate things." "Just a minute," I said firmly, finding strength I didn't know I still had. "I brought you something." I went to the coat rack, took the thick envelope from the inside pocket of my coat, and went back to the table. Everyone was now looking at me curiously. Renata frowned, suspicious. Gabriel crossed his arms, clearly irritated, as if I were purposely disturbing his dinner. I placed the envelope in front of him, on top of the embroidered tablecloth. "Merry Christmas, my son." Gabriel took the envelope, looking at me with a mixture of impatience and curiosity. It opened slowly, like someone opening a late bill, and when he took out the papers from inside, the color drained from his face. They were documents, lots of documents, officers, stamped, signed, house deed, bank account, life insurance policy, all in his name. What is this? He asked, his voice hoarse, almost inaudible. It's the house, I replied, trying to hold back the tears that burned my eyes. I transferred the deed to your name 3 months ago. The house is yours now, Gabriel. Official, registered at a notary's office. Pay, no debt, no mortgage. She is completely yours. Absolute silence. All that could be heard was the sound of Christmas music in the background and the distant tinkling of a wind chime on the porch. Gabriel looked at the papers as if he were seeing a ghost. Renata leaned over to look too, and her face, once full of arrogance, turned pale as paper. And this other document, I continued, pointing to the second document, is an account that I opened for you 5 years ago when I started working as an app driver. I collected penny by penny every ride, every tip, every dollar I had left. It's 53,000 reais, Gabriel. It's all there, in your name, for you and for Renata, for you to build your future, so you can teach my grandchildren, so you don't go through what I went through. My voice started to crack. I swallowed hard, trying to maintain my composure. And this last document, I pointed to the third piece of paper, shaking, is the life insurance policy I took out. 150 reais a month, every month without fail, since you got married. If I die, you will receive 200,000 reais. I pay correctly, even when there is no food in my fridge, because I wanted to make sure that even after I'm gone, you won't be in need, that my grandchildren will have a future, that you won't need to kill yourself working like I killed myself. A tear ran down my face. I didn't try to hide it. I was already planning to give you this for Christmas. Because I love you, son. Because everything I have, everything I am, everything I have gathered in life has always been for you and your sister. I never wanted anything for myself. I just wanted to see you happy. I just wanted to be a good father, even though I don't have any education, even though he is a poor, unrefined black man who embarrasses people with old clothes and the smell of medicine. My voice was filled with pain, from years of pain. But everything's fine now, I said, forcing a sad smile. You don't have to worry about me anymore. The house is yours. It's your money. The insurance is yours. I'm going to find a place for myself and get out of here soon. I'm going to look for a little room to rent, somewhere where I won't bother anyone, where I'm not a burden, where I don't ruin anyone's Christmas. And I turned my back again. This time I managed to climb 3 steps before I heard the sound, a hiccup, then another, and then a desperate cry. I looked back and saw my son Gabriel collapsing in his chair, with his face buried in his hands, his shoulders shaking, crying like I hadn't seen him since he was a small child, when he fell off his bike and broke his arm. Renata was paralyzed, white as paper, looking at the documents on the table as if they were bombs about to explode, and my sister Celia had gotten up from her chair, with her fists clenched, pointing her finger at Gabriel with her eyes full of tears and fury. "You ungrateful son of a bitch," she shouted, in a voice I had never heard before. "You wretch. You kicked your father out of the table at Christmas, the man who raised you alone, who gave you everything, who never slept properly so you wouldn't go hungry, who worked until he destroyed his back so you could go to college, and you had the courage to humiliate him like that?" The grandchildren began to cry, frightened by their great-aunt's scream. Celia's husband got up too, trying to calm her down, but she was beside herself. "You're a disgrace, Gabriel. A shame. Your father gave you his entire life and you, she couldn't finish. He burst into tears too. Gabriel cried non-stop, and I realized something that chilled me to the bone. He wasn't crying while rowing RSO. He was crying in despair, as if he had just realized something terrible, something that was still hidden, something I didn't know yet. I stood on the stairs, watching my son collapse. Part of me wanted to go down, hug him, tell him everything was okay, but the other part, the part that had just been kicked out of its own Christmas table, told me to go up and lock the bedroom door. Gabriel looked up. It was red, swollen, covered in tears. He looked at me with a desperation I had never seen before. It wasn't just guilt. It was panic. "Father," he managed to say between sobs. "Dad, I didn't know." "You didn't know what?" I asked, going down 2 steps. "That I loved you? That I had given everything for you?" "No," he shouted, getting up from his chair so quickly that he knocked over his glass of wine. "It's not that. We. Renata placed her hand on his arm, squeezing tightly. It was a warning gesture of silence, and I realized at that moment there was something he couldn't say, something she didn't want him to say. "Gabriel, sit down," Renata ordered, with a firm and low voice. "Sit down now." But he didn't sit down. He stood there, shaking, looking at me as if he were seeing a ghost. "You can't leave here, Dad," he said desperately. "Please, you can't leave. Not now." I frowned, confused. "But you just told me to leave the table." He said I embarrass people, that I'm a burden. I know I said that, and I'm trash, Dad. I'm the worst person in the world. But you need to stay. Do you need— Gabriel, enough. Renata stood up, pulling him by the arm. Let's talk inside. Now. She dragged him into the kitchen, closing the door tightly. I stood there on the stairs looking at the closed door. Celia came to me holding my hand. Antonio, come, let's get out of here. You will spend Christmas at my house. I shook my head. No, Celia, I need to understand what's happening. You don't need to understand anything, she said angrily. You've already given everything to this ungrateful boy. He arrives. Let's go. But I couldn't move, because I had seen that look on my son's face, that desperation, and I knew Gabriel since he was born. I knew when he was lying, when he was scared, when he was hiding something, and at that moment he was hiding something very big. I stayed there for a few minutes, listening to muffled voices coming from the kitchen. Gabriel and Renata were arguing. I couldn't hear the words, but the tone was clear. She was furious. He was desperate. Then the door opened. Renata came out first, her face closed, her eyes shining with anger. Gabriel followed behind, wiping his face with his shirt sleeve. Dad, he said, his voice still hoarse. I wanted to apologize. In truth, what I did was horrible, unforgivable. I went down a few more steps, getting close to him. Why did you do that, son? What did I do wrong to deserve to be treated like this? He closed his eyes, took a deep breath. Nothing, Dad. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm going through some things, some problems, and I took it out on you. It was cowardly, it was cruel. What problems? My problems. Renata cut in, crossing her arms. And now, if you don't mind, we'd like to go back to supper. In family, including you, Antonio, if you still want to stay. I looked at her. There was no sincerity in that invitation. It was protocol, obligation, maybe even scared. Thank you, I replied, tired, but I lost my hunger. I'm going to my room. Dad, please. Gabriel tried, but I was already climbing. Enjoy your dinner, I said without looking back. Merry Christmas. I entered the room and closed the door. I sat on the bed looking at my hands. They were shaking, not out of fear, of anger, of sadness, of confusion. What was happening? Why had Gabriel been so desperate when he saw those documents? Why did Renata have that panicked look? And why had he said, you can't leave now? Now. He had used the word now, as if there was a deadline, a specific time. I sat there in the dark, listening to the sounds of supper below, forced laughter, music, clattering of dishes, everything returning to normal, as if nothing had happened. And then the memories started to come. I remembered Gabriel when he was 5 years old, running around the yard of the old house, shouting, "Look, Dad, look," while flying a kite. I had just gotten home from work, covered in cement, exhausted, but I sat on the ground and flew kites with him until it got dark. I remembered Gabriel at 10 years old crying because he'd gotten a low grade in math. I didn't understand anything about mathematics. I barely knew how to read properly, but I borrowed books from the library, learned alongside him, spent sleepless nights helping him study. At the end of the year, he had gotten the best grade in the class. I remembered Gabriel when he was 15. He asked me if his mother was proud of him from heaven. I held his face in my hands and said, "Your father is proud, and that's enough." I remembered Gabriel at 22, on graduation day, putting the straw in my hand and saying, "This is ours, Dad. I only got it because of you." When did he change? When did I stop being the father he respected and become the old man he was ashamed of? The answer came quickly. Renata. Since she came into his life, everything has changed. She didn't like me, never liked it. I noticed it in the looks, in the subtle comments, in the jokes about people who have no class. And Gabriel, who had always been strong, who had always defended who I was, began to bow, agreeing, treating me as if I were a problem to be solved. I was lost in these thoughts when I heard voices in the hallway, steps, whispers. You can't say anything to him. It was Renata's voice. But what if he finds out? Gabriel anxious. He will not find out, as long as you keep your mouth shut. Renata, he gave the house to me. He gave everything to me. How am I going to? You will do what has to be done. We've already gone too far. If you weaken now, we lose everything. My heart raced. I got up slowly, got close to the door, put my ear to it. How long do we still have? Gabriel asked. 3 months, maybe 4, if we're lucky. And then, silence. A heavy, charged silence. After, Renata began, but was interrupted by the crying of one of her grandchildren downstairs. Let's go down, she said, and you will stop crying and pretend that everything is okay. Did you understand? I understood. I heard the footsteps moving away. I stood there, glued to the door, my heart beating so hard I thought it was going to explode. 3 months, maybe 4. Until what? What were they hiding from me? I went back to bed, but I couldn't lie down. I sat there trying to put the pieces together. Gabriel's despair upon seeing the documents. The phrase, "you can't leave now." The talk about deadline. about losing everything, and then a memory hit me like a punch. 3 weeks ago, I had woken up in the middle of the night thirsty. I went down to the kitchen and heard Gabriel on the phone in the living room speaking quietly. I didn't want to listen, but some words reached me. Life insurance, after we will be able to. At the time, I didn't care. I thought he was talking about work, about some client. But now, combined with what I just heard, it all made macabre sense. Life insurance. I had just given him a policy for 200,000 Rs, 3 months, maybe 4. My God, were they? No, it couldn't be. My son would never do that. Never. But his voice, desperate, saying, what if he finds out? Discover what? I got out of bed, shaking. I needed to be sure. I needed to know if I was going crazy, or if there was really something very wrong going on. I opened the door slowly, looked into the hallway. Empty. I went down the stairs without making a sound. Supper was still going on. Laughter, conversations. I hid behind the wall, watching. Gabriel was sitting, but not eating. He just pushed the food on the plate. Renata was talking to Celia about something, pretending to be normal. But every now and then she would look at her husband with a look that I recognized right away. Warning. Control. I went back to the hallway, went to their room. The door was ajar. I entered. My heart was beating wildly. I knew I was invading their privacy, but I needed to know. I looked quickly, in the drawers, in the closet, under the bed, and then I found it, a folder, hidden in the back of the closet under a bunch of blankets. I opened it. Inside there were documents, lots of documents, contracts, bank statements, and a printed WhatsApp conversation between Renata and someone called Dr. Mendez. I started reading, and the ground disappeared from beneath my feet. Renata, how long until you get the certificate? Dr. Mendez, it depends. If he continues taking the medication I gave him, about 3 months. Renata, and will it be natural? No one will suspect? Dr. Mendez, nobody. Acute heart failure, common in men his age with a history of high blood pressure. Renata, perfect. And what about insurance? Dr. Mendez, as long as he dies of natural causes, you receive full payment. My vision went dark. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped the folder. They were killing me, slowly, with medicine, and my son knew. I kept the folder exactly as it was, blankets on top, everything in place. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped everything. I left their room like a ghost, stepping slowly, trying not to make any noise. My son was killing me, or at least I knew they were killing me, and he didn't do anything. I went back to my room, locked the door, sat on the bed. My heart was beating so hard that I could feel it in my throat. I took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3. Precise. I had to think. He needed to have a cool head. I grabbed the bottle of medicine from the bedside table, the one the doctor had told me to take. Dr. Mendez, the same name as the conversation. I looked at the label. Take 1 tablet in the morning and another at night. Do not interrupt treatment. Renata always made a point of reminding me. He brought the pill with a glass of water. He kept looking at me until I swallowed it. It's for your blood pressure, Antonio. The doctor said it's very important. Doctor I had never seen in person. The consultation had been via telemedicine, a screen, a man in a lab coat saying that my blood pressure was dangerous, that I needed that specific medicine, that it was a matter of life and death, and I, like an idiot, believed it. I trusted. I opened the bottle, took a pill, small, white, without any marks. It didn't look like a pharmacy medicine. I placed it in the palm of my hand, looked at it against the light. What was in there? I kept the bottle in the drawer, under my socks. I wasn't going to take any more, but I couldn't let them know that I knew. I needed to pretend, need to save time. I needed to find out everything before acting, and most importantly, I needed to know how involved my son was in this. Was it his idea, or was he just another victim of Renata? I desperately wanted to believe the second option. I stayed in the room the rest of the night. I heard supper finishing, people leaving, the noises in the house slowly fading away, until everything was silent. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking, planning. The next morning I went down to the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Renata was making coffee. He looked at me with that usual air of superiority. Good morning, she said without any warmth. Good morning. She took my pill, put it on the table with a glass of water. Your medicine. I looked at her. I studied her face. She was pretty, well-dressed. Her hair was always tidy, but behind those eyes was something cold, calculator, cruel. Thanks, I said, taking the pill. I pretended to put it in my mouth, but I dropped it in my pajama pocket when she turned to stir her coffee. I took the glass of water and drank it. Did you take it? She asked, still facing away. I took it. She turned and looked at me suspiciously. I opened my mouth, raised my tongue, like a child showing his mother that he had swallowed the medicine. She gave a small smile. Excellent. Doctor, Mendez said you can't forget a day. That name. coming out of her mouth so naturally, as if he were just an ordinary doctor, taking care of my health, not a killer getting paid to kill me slowly. Is he a good doctor? I asked, testing. The best. Very expensive, but worth every penny. Expensive, of course. Professional killers don't work for free. Gabriel appeared in the kitchen, still in his pajamas, looking like he hadn't slept. He looked at me and immediately looked away. I couldn't face myself. Good morning, son. Good morning, Dad, he murmured, picking up a cup. The three of us sat at the kitchen table. Awkward silence. I looked at him, waiting for him to say something, anything. Let him confess, to ask for help. That would save me. But he was just stirring his coffee, looking down. Gabriel, I said calmly, can I talk to you? Just the two of us? Renata chimed in at the same time. He's busy today, Antonio. We have to resolve some things. I just wanted to talk to my son, 5 minutes. Gabriel looked at Renata. She made an almost imperceptible gesture with her head. No, he swallowed. We'll talk later, Dad, okay? Okay, I replied, feeling my chest tighten. I got up and left the kitchen. I went to the backyard. I needed air. I needed to think. I sat on the old stool under the mango tree. That backyard had been my refuge for years. That's where I came when the world got tough, where I cried when my wife died, where I prayed for strength to raise my children alone, and now was where I was finding out that my own son wanted me dead. Or did he not want to? That despair on his face yesterday, the tears, the panic when seeing the documents. He didn't look like a cold killer. He looked like a man trapped, manipulated, afraid. What if he was being blackmailed by Renata? What if she had forced him to participate in this? I wanted to believe that. God, how I wanted. I stayed there for hours, pretending I was enjoying the sun. But he was actually watching. I saw Renata leaving in the car. I saw Gabriel being alone in the house. It was my chance. I entered through the back door, climbed the stairs without making a sound. I heard his voice in the room on the phone. I can't take this anymore, Mariana. I can't take it. Mariana, my daughter, the only one of the two who still visited me, who still called, who still cared, or I thought he still cared. I know you don't want to hear it, Gabriel continued, voice choked, but I need to talk to someone. I'm doing a horrible thing, the worst thing in the world. I stopped breathing. No, you don't understand, and, Renata, silence. I know I should tell him, but if I tell you, we lose everything, the house, the money, everything. More silence. He gave the house to me, Mariana. He put it in my name. Do you understand what this means? If I tell the truth now, he will reverse the donation. You will disown me, and we will be left with nothing. My God, that was it. They were killing me for the inheritance, around the house, for the money. No, he can't leave now, Gabriel practically shouted. It has to be here. It has to look natural. If he leaves, moves, everything will fall apart. I felt my legs weaken. I leaned against the wall. A few more months, Mariana. Just a few more months. Dr. Mendez said that. I couldn't hear the rest, because at that moment, a floorboard creaked beneath my foot. Gabriel stopped talking. Someone's there, he said into the phone. Let me see. The door opened. Gabriel saw me. It turned white. The cell phone fell from his hand. Father, how many months? I asked, my voice shaking. How many months until I die, Gabriel? He started to shake. Tears ran down his face. Dad, I can explain. How many? I screamed, and it was the first time in my life that I screamed at my son. 3? He shouted back, desperate. 3 months, Dad? It was supposed to be 3 months. I felt the world spin. 3 months, 90 days. They had calculated my death, marked on the calendar. And you were going to let me? I asked, my voice breaking. Your own father? Were you going to watch me die little by little and do nothing? I didn't want it, he shouted, falling to his knees. I swear to God I didn't want to. It was Renata. She planned everything. She found the doctor. She who? And you agreed. Silence. You agreed, Gabriel. You knew and didn't tell me. You saw me take that poison every day and you didn't say anything. I was afraid, he cried. Fear of losing everything. We are full of debt, Dad, full. The salary doesn't pay anything anymore. We were going to lose our house. We were going to lose everything. And then she said that you were going to die anyway, that you are already old, that it was just to anticipate it a little. Anticipate, I repeated in disbelief. Anticipate my murder? He sobbed on the floor, broken. I am your father, Gabriel. I created you. I loved you. I gave you everything I had. And you, I couldn't finish it. I turned to leave, but he got up and grabbed me by the arm. Don't go to the police, Dad. Please, for my children, for your grandchildren. I beg you. I took his arm away. Let me go, Father. Let me go. He let me go. And when I was almost at the stairs, he said something that froze me. You won't be able to prove anything. Renata burned all the documents. Dr. Mendez does not exist. It's a fake name. And you already signed the house for me. He already gave the money. If you report me, you will be left with nothing. Old, alone, without a home, without money, without a family. Is this what you want? I turned to him. Tears ran down my face. I wanted a son. That's all I wanted. And I went down the stairs. I grabbed my cell phone, my wallet, and walked out the door. I didn't even look back. I heard Gabriel screaming my name, but I didn't stop. I walked without knowing where. I walked around crying, stumbling, feeling like the world had ended, until a hand grabbed my shoulder. Antonio? It was my sister Celia. I was returning from the market with bags in my hands. She dropped everything on the floor when she saw my face. My God, what happened? And I broke down. Right there, in the middle of the sidewalk, in my sister's arms, I broke down. I told everything, every detail, the medicines, the plan, Dr. Mendez, the conversation I had heard, Gabriel knowing, Renata planning, all. Celia turned pale, then red with anger. We're going to the police now, she said firmly. There's no proof, Celia. They burned everything, and I already gave him the house. I'm an old fool who gave everything and now has nothing. You have me, she said, cupping my face. And you still have life. And as long as you have life, we will fight. How? She thought. And then his eyes lit up. Do you still have the pills? I have. So we have proof. We take it to analyze, find out what's inside, and then we take down these monsters. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. But when we arrived at her house, and I took out the bottle of medicine that I had kept in my pocket, it was empty. Completely empty. And inside, a note. Looking for this, Antonio? We've already taken care of everything. You won't prove anything, and if you try, you'll die today, not tomorrow. Today. My cell phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, trembling. It was Renata's voice. Go home, old man, now, or we guarantee that your sister will also need medicine, and hung up. Celia snatched the phone from my hand. You're not going back to that house. This is a threat. We call the police now. And what do you say, Celia? My voice sounded tired, defeated. What do I think is poisoning me? Without proof? No medicine? With nothing? They will laugh in our faces. And meanwhile, Renata carries out her threat. You will become a target too. So you're going back? Are you going to let them kill you? I looked into my sister's eyes. She had been my rock my entire life. When my wife died, it was Celia who helped me take care of the children. When I didn't have money for food, she was the one who shared what little she had. I couldn't put her life at risk. I'm going back, I said quietly, but I won't take any more pills. I'll pretend. I'll buy time, and I will find a way to prove what they are doing. How? You said yourself that they burned everything. I do not know yet, but I'll find out. I promise. She hugged me tightly, crying. I don't want to lose you, bro. You are all I have. You won't lose me, I promise. I walked home slowly, preparing my face and my posture. I needed to look defeated, submissive, a weak old man who had given up fighting. When I opened the door, Renata was waiting for me in the living room, arms crossed. Gabriel was behind her, head down. It took a while, she said coldly. I got lost. I lied. I'm old. Sometimes I forget the way. She studied me with those snake eyes. Where did you go? I just walked. I needed to think. Think about what? How stupid I was. How I ruined everything at supper yesterday. I forced out the words, each one hurting in my throat. I wanted to apologize. For Gabriel. For you, ma'am. For causing that scene. Gabriel looked up, surprised. Renata continued to stare at me, suspicious. Sorry? Yeah, I understand now. I'm really a burden, and the house belongs to Gabriel. It's his money. I have no right to complain about anything. Father, Gabriel began, but Renata cut him off with a look. I'm glad you understand, she said with a venomous smile. And since you understand, I hope you don't forget your medicine. Dr. Mendez called today. He said you're late for your morning dose. She extended her hand. In the middle of the palm, a white pill. My heart raced, but I kept my face neutral. You're right. I really forgot. Thanks. I took the pill, put it in my mouth, took the glass of water she offered. I drank. I swallowed the air, making the swallowing movement. Open your mouth, she ordered. I opened it. Lift your tongue. I got up. The pill was hidden between the gum and cheek. She didn't see it. Excellent. Now go rest. You look tired? I went up to the room. As soon as I closed the door, I spat the pill into the toilet and flushed it. My hands were shaking. How many of these had I already taken? How much poison was already in my body? I sat on the bed, trying to think. I needed help. But whose? I couldn't involve Celia anymore. Mariana, my daughter, lived in another state and was on Gabriel's side. I had heard the call. The police wouldn't believe me without proof. And then I remembered. You're Augusto, my neighbor, a 70-year-old man retired from the civil police. We would sometimes talk at the gate, talk about football, politics, life. He always said, Antonio, if you ever need anything, you can knock on my door. It was a risk, but it was the only chance I had. That night, I waited for everyone to sleep. I climbed out the back window, something I hadn't done since I was a teenager, climbed over the low wall and went to the house next door. I knocked on the door slowly. Once, two, three. Seu Augusto opened it, surprised, in his bathrobe. Antonio? What happened, boy? It's 2 a.m. Mr. Augusto, I need help, please. It's life or death. He pulled me inside, closed the door. Sit down. Tell everything. And I did. Every detail. The medicines. Dr. Mendez. The conversation I heard. Gabriel knowing. Renata planning. The threats. All. Mr. Augusto turned red with anger. These bastards, he shouted. This is attempted murder. But you're right, without proof the police can't do anything. And now, he thought, scratching his chin, we need concrete proof. Recording, video, confession, something irrefutable. But how? They burned everything, and they keep an eye on me all the time. Let me think. He was silent for a minute. Then his eyes lit up. Antonio, you said that Renata is confident, right? Do you think you've already won? He thinks. Then she will make a mistake. Confident people always make mistakes. We just need to create the right situation for her to surrender. How? You will do exactly what she wants. It will be the obedient old man. Go take your medicine. He raised his hand when I was about to protest, in front of her. But it will continue spitting afterwards, and in the meantime I'm going to bug your house. Do you listen? I have some equipment here from the police days. Tiny microphones. We plant them in the living room, in the kitchen, in their bedroom, and wait for them to incriminate themselves. That's great, he laughed humorlessly. No, but neither is murder. And between saving your life and following some rules, I choose you save. For the first time in days, I felt hope. For the next 3 days, I pretended to be the perfect submissive father. He took the medicine in front of Renata, spitting it out later. He did everything she told him to do. He didn't complain about anything. It was quiet, invisible. And meanwhile, Mr. Augusto, with the help of his son, who was an electronics technician, installed 5 microphones in the house. 1 in the room, 1 in the kitchen, 1 in Gabriel and Renata's room, 1 in the office, and 1 in the backyard. On the 4th day, the trap was activated. I was in the backyard when I heard Renata and Gabriel arguing in the kitchen. Their voices reached me, but I pretended not to hear them. They didn't know that every word was being recorded in high definition on Mr. Augusto's notebook, in the house next door. He looks strange, Renata said. Very obedient. This is not normal. Maybe he gave up, Gabriel replied, tired. Or maybe he's planning something. Renata, that's enough. I can't take this anymore. I look at him and it makes me want to vomit. From myself. Don't soften now, Gabriel, not long. Another month, maybe 2, and it's over. We take everything and move on with our lives. What if he dies and the police investigate? You won't investigate? He's 58 years old, has high blood pressure, is black, poor. No one will care. It'll be just another old man who died of a heart attack. Common, natural. I heard everything from the backyard, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to go up and choke them both, but I held back. I needed more. I needed a full confession. Seu Augusto had the perfect idea, a family reunion. Call everyone, he said. Your sister, your daughter, grandchildren, neighbors, make a Sunday lunch, and it says you have an important announcement to make. What ad? You will say that you decided to make a will, and he wants to make everything official, in front of everyone so no one can fight after his death. I understood the plan. It was brilliant. Renata would think I was guaranteeing their inheritance in an official way. I was going to let my guard down. I was going to relax. And maybe, just maybe, I would say too much. The following Sunday, the house was full. Celia and her husband, Mariana, who came by plane, the grandchildren, 3 neighbors, and of course, Gabriel and Renata. I had prepared a barbecue. The house smelled good. Everyone laughed, talked, except Gabriel, who was pale and tense. Renata, on the other hand, was radiant. I knew that was her victory day. When everyone was at the table, I got up and hit the glass with the knife. Guys, I wanted to say something important. Silence. As you know, I'm getting old, and I wanted to keep everything organized, so that no one suffers after I'm gone. Renata smiled. Celia looked at me, confused. She didn't know about the plan, so I decided to make a will. I continued, and I came to make it official here in front of everyone, that I leave everything to my son Gabriel and my daughter Mariana. The house, the money, the insurance, everything. Applause, smiles. Renata shook Gabriel's hand, victorious. But before I sign, I said, pulling a fake envelope from the drawer, I wanted to hear from you. Do you think I was a good father? Mariana got up and hugged me. The best, Dad. The best in the world. Gabriel was quiet. And you, son? I asked, looking at him. Do you think I was a good father? He swallowed hard. Yes, father. Same, I insisted. Even though it was a burden, an embarrassment, someone who smells like medicine and old clothes? The silence became heavy. Renata looked at him, warning with her eyes. Be careful. I should never have said that, Gabriel whispered. But he did. And do you know why? Because you wanted me to die soon. Wasn't it, Gabriel? The entire table froze. Dad, what are you talking about? Mariana asked. I'm telling you, I said, my voice shaking with suppressed anger, that my son and daughter-in-law have been poisoning me for months. I'm saying that they invented a fake doctor, gave me medicines that were supposed to kill me in 3 months, and were waiting for me to die to get the inheritance. Renata stood up, white. This is crazy. You are senile. Senile? I picked up the cell phone, pressed play. Renata's recorded voice echoed through the room. 1 more month, maybe 2, and it's over. We take it all and move on with our lives. He's 58 years old, has high blood pressure, is black, poor. No one will care. He'll just be another old man who died of a heart attack. Chaos exploded. Screams. I cry. Celia jumped on top of Renata. Mariana looked at her brother with horror. The neighbors stood up, shocked, and that's when the front door opened. 2 police officers entered with Mr. Augusto behind. Renata Souza and Gabriel Santos, the policeman said. You are under arrest for attempted aggravated murder. Renata tried to run. Gabriel collapsed to the floor, crying. But when the police approached her, Renata pulled a knife from her bag and pointed it at me. Nobody moves, she screamed, her eyes going crazy. Nobody, or I'll finish the job now. Renata held the knife with both hands, pointing it at me. Her eyes were, they are wide-eyed, full of hatred and despair. She had realized that she had lost, and people like that, when they lose, they become dangerous. I told nobody to move, she shouted again, taking a step towards me. The officers raised their hands, trying to calm her down. Calm down, ma'am. Calm. Drop the knife. It doesn't make your situation worse. My situation? She laughed, hysterical. My situation is already lost because of him. He pointed the knife at me. That miserable old man who didn't know how to die quietly, who didn't know how to stay in his place. Renata, stop, Gabriel shouted from the ground, still on his knees. So as to, he arrives. Shut up, you useless asshole, she shouted to her husband. You're good for nothing. You weren't even good for killing your own father. I had to do everything alone, plan everything, and you there crying like a child. That hit Gabriel like a slap. He looked up, shaking, looking at his wife as if he were seeing her for the first time. Alone? He repeated, his voice broken. You said it was my idea, and you believed it? She laughed cruelly. God, you really are stupid, Gabriel. Dumb and weak, just like your father. A family of weaklings. Gabriel turned white, and in that moment, I saw something break inside him. The last illusion, the last shred of loyalty to that woman. He stood up slowly, facing her. You lied to me from the beginning. Of course I lied, she shouted. Someone had to have courage in this pathetic family. Someone had to do what needed to be done. Kill my father? That needed to be done? Yes, she screamed, out of control. So we can have a decent life. So we don't feel embarrassed with this old black guy living in our house. So we can have money, a future, dignity. The silence that fell was deafening. Even the police officers were shocked by the coldness of those words. And that's when Gabriel did something I never imagined I would see. He attacked his wife, forcefully snatched the knife from her hand and threw it away. Then he grabbed her by the shoulders and shouted with an anger I had never seen in him. You are a monster. You destroyed my life. You destroyed my family. And I was an idiot to believe you. The police took advantage of the moment and grabbed Renata, handcuffing her while she screamed, struggled, and spat venom. You'll regret it, Gabriel. Your father is going to die one day and you won't see a cent. You will be left with nothing. Without nothing. They dragged her out of the house. I could hear her screams until she was bundled into the squad car. And then, silence. Gabriel stood in the middle of the room, shaking, looking at his hands as if he couldn't believe what he had just done. Mariana was crying in the corner, hugging Celia. The grandchildren had been taken inside by one of the neighbors. The police officer approached Gabriel and placed his hand on his shoulder. You'll also have to come to the police station. Give testimony. Maybe he'll be charged as an accomplice. Gabriel nodded without taking his eyes off the ground. I know. I deserve it. Gabriel, I started, but he raised his hand, interrupting me. No, father. Don't say anything. Please. He turned to me, and what I saw on his face broke my heart again. Shame, pain, deep remorse. I will pay for what I did, he said, his voice shaking. I'll go to jail if I have to. I deserve it. I let her poison you. I knew, and I didn't do anything. Gabriel, I let her kill you, he shouted, bursting into tears. Day after day, I saw you taking that poison. I saw you getting weaker, sadder, sicker, and I did nothing, because I wanted the house, Dad. I wanted the money. I put money before my own father's life. He fell to his knees, there, in front of everyone. My son, a 32-year-old man on his knees on the floor, crying like a child. "Forgive me, Father. For the love of God, forgive me." I looked at him, and all the memories came at once. Baby Gabriel sleeping on my lap. Gabriel as a child learning to ride a bike while I ran behind. Gabriel as a teenager, hugging me when I cried at his mother's wake. Young Gabriel, calling me a hero on graduation day. And Gabriel as an adult betraying me in the worst way possible. Could I forgive? The entire room looked at me, waiting. Celia, with tears in her eyes. Mariana, torn between anger at her brother and pity. The policeman, waiting for my reaction. So Augusto, who had saved my life, watching everything. I took a step towards my son. He raised his face, wet with tears, his eyes red. "Father, get up," I said. "No, I don't deserve it. I don't even deserve to look at your face." I said, "Get up, Gabriel." He stood up slowly, staggering. We stood face to face, and then I did something I didn't even know I was going to do. I hugged my son. I hugged him tight, tight, as he collapsed onto my shoulder, sobbing, shaking. "I hate you for having me betrayed," I said, my voice breaking. "I hate you for putting money in front of your father. I hate you for not having the courage to save me." He cried harder with each word. "But you are still my son, and I still love you. And if I survived all of this, it was because God wanted me to have the chance to save you too, to get you out of this darkness before it was too late." "Father," he managed to say between sobs, "you will have to pay for what you did, Gabriel, legally, judicially, in every way. But as long as you pay, as long as you truly repent, as long as you rebuild yourself, I will be here. Not like an idiot who lets everything slide, but like a father who doesn't give up on his son, even when his son gives up on him." He hugged me so tight I almost couldn't breathe. "I will redeem myself, Father. I swear. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of being your son again." "Then start now," I said, pulling away and looking into his eyes. "Tell everything to the police, every detail, collaborate, witness against her, and then rebuild your life the right way, for your children, for you, and for me." He nodded, wiping his face. The policeman approached. "Come on, Gabriel. We have a lot to talk about." Gabriel went. Before leaving the door, he looked back at me and whispered, "Thank you, Father, for everything, always," and left. The following days were a whirlwind. Renata was indicted for attempted qualified homicide, criminal association, and use of a false document. This Dr. Mendez was tracked down. He was actually a former nursing technician who had lost his registration and was selling illegal services. He was also arrested. Gabriel collaborated with everything. He confessed, delivered conversations, explained the entire plan. Because of this, and because he saved my life in the end, the judge was lighter, 2 years sentence, with the possibility of a semi-open regime and community service. The house went back to my name, money too, not because I asked for it. It was a court decision, as the donation had been made under influence and threat, but I didn't want to live there anymore. I sold the house. I took the money and divided it in half for Mariana, half saved for when Gabriel got out of prison and needed to start over. I had enough to rent a small, simple apartment, all my own, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. 6 months later, I went to visit Gabriel in prison. He had lost weight, his hair was shorter, but the look was different. He no longer had that arrogance, that contempt. He had humility, pain, but also hope. "Hi, Dad. Hi, son." We sat facing each other with the glass between us, talking on the phone. "How are you?" he asked. "Alive, strong, free." He smiled sadly. "I'm doing therapy here, trying to understand how I let things get to this point, how I turned into that. And are you helping?" "Okay, I'm noticing a lot of things. About me, about Renata, about greed, about having lost my values." I remained silent, listening. "You were right, Father. Always has. You gave me everything, and I threw it away, out of pride, out of ambition, out of weakness. But you can still fix it, Gabriel. He's still alive. He still has his children. It still has a future. I know. And when I leave here, I'll be different. I promise." I believed him, because I saw truth in his eyes. "And the boys?" I asked. "Mariana is taking care of it. She is incredible." He explained everything to them, in the way children understand. "They know that their father made a mistake, but that he is trying to improve. Do they come to visit you?" "Once a month. It's painful, but it's necessary. I want them to see the consequences of bad choices. I want them to grow up better than me." Smile. "You'll get out of this, son. And when you get out, you'll have a second chance. Don't waste it." "I won't, Father, I swear." "Why, today, 3 years after that damn Christmas, I'm here, in my small apartment, drinking coffee and looking out the window. Gabriel was released from prison 6 months ago. He's working on a construction site, earning little, rebuilding his life from scratch. But it's honest. He is present in his children's lives. He's rediscovering himself. Renata got 8 years. It's going to be a good while yet. And me? I learned that love is not about being a doormat. Love is not accepting everything silently. True love demands limits, demands respect, demands dignity. I learned that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing the heart from the poison of hate, but still demanding responsibility. I learned that we can be humiliated, degraded, betrayed, almost killed, and still get up, still survive, still win, because victory is not about having money, or a house, or status. Victory is waking up every day knowing that you are worthy, that you are worth, that you matter, and no one can take that away from you, unless you leave, and I didn't let it. If you are experiencing betrayal, humiliation, injustice within your own family, I tell you, resist, fight, seek help. Don't accept being treated like trash just because you love someone. True love does not humiliate. Don't be embarrassed. It doesn't kill. And if you are a son, a daughter, a grandchild, someone who has living parents or grandparents, honor them, appreciate it, take care, because one day, they won't be here anymore, and you will have to live with the choices you made. May your choices leave you at peace, not in despair. I survived, and today when I look in the mirror I see a man who went through fire and didn't turn to ashes. It turned to gold, and no one can take that away from me.